it may be March and there may be madness, but that doesn't mean we can't get an update and get thoughts from one of the guys in the business when it comes to the Saints and the host of the State of the Saints podcast, Mr. TJ Jones, talking all things black and gold. TJ, how's it going?
Hey, Meche, how you doing?
Oh, we're doing good ourselves. I am kind of curious since it has been a hot minute since we've had you on our Mike's Marine hotline, Mike's Marine keeping you on the water. I just want to get your overall thoughts on how you thought the Saints have done so far when it comes to this free agency period. They've gotten a couple of guys that had some big names and have some championship experience, looking at guys like Justin Reed and even getting help on the interior. What's just been your overall thoughts on how the Saints have approached this offseason so far?
I'm kind of impressed about some of the moves that they made. I'm kind of shocked as well. I mean, especially when you think about all of the players that they decided to resign. A lot of the players that they had from last season, I expected for them maybe to test free agency or maybe find homes with other teams. But now when I look at it, it's like, wow, it's like Mickey Loomis has told the entire NFL world and Saints fans alike that the issues that plagued this team had very little to do with the players and everything to do with, I guess, the battle of attrition. So I was kind of shocked that I've seen a lot of these players like Juwan Johnson return and get a contract extension. But I also like some of the moves that you alluded to. You know, Justin Reed, two-time Super Bowl champion safety, and also Devon Godshaw, you know, a former Louisiana guy, went to LSU, and also made a name for himself with the Patriots. So some of the moves I've liked, some of them were a little bit of a head scratcher and quite surprising.
Did you find the numbers that guys like Juwan Johnson and Chase Young ended up getting $17 million a year and a little over $10 million a year for Johnson for each one of their contracts? Did that shock you or kind of make you cringe a little bit? Like, ooh, I don't know if I would have given them that big of a number.
I look at Chase Young a little bit differently from Juwan Johnson. When you think about Chase Young, you think about his age. He's 25 years old, still got a lot of football that he has ahead of him. And also, you know, you've seen Chase Young prove as the year went on with the Saints, especially when Dennis Allen ended up getting fired and they changed around the defensive line coach. You start to see him really make his presence felt. I think in his new 3-4 defense, you need someone like Chase Young that can stand up as well as put his hands on the ground and be able to do some things defensively. So I think that his athleticism, you know, is going to be worth the price tag. But when it comes to Juwan Johnson, I mean, it's been a guy who has a lot of potential. The word potential has been tossed around quite a bit with Juwan Johnson. I just felt like maybe the Saints needed to go in a different direction. It wasn't like he just took the league by storm last season. It was just a matter of a lot of guys being down, and he was a starter, so he got most of the targets. I would have went with maybe Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State, a rookie, a guy that you can just bring in and make a part of this offense.
When it comes to the wide receiver position, it is my favorite position, and there's been a lack of addressing when it comes to the Saints hitting on that so far this offseason. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are clearly the number one and two options on the outside. They did end up getting Velus Jones last weekend. However, I'm not expecting too much from him if he even makes the roster, because if anything, he's been more productive in the running game and seems to be getting more of a role in special teams.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I look at this wide receiver room. They definitely to improve. I think that we had these conversations. I can remember being on a show around this time last year, and the biggest concern that I had was Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed staying healthy because there was such a huge drop-off. I think the Saints need to address the wide receiver position. You got two athletic guys in the wide receiver room. I think you need that big body wide receiver, the guy that can get those yards after the catch, a guy that's not afraid to go over the middle, and he demands a double team. I mean, you look at Tedoroa McMillan out of Arizona. You look at Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, two big body guys. I mean, that's just kind of the way that the NFL is going. You look at Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I just think that you need that big target And I think that needs to be the focus when it comes to the wide receiver position.
You brought up a couple of options there as a big body receiver, especially a young one going into this 2025 NFL draft in late April. Another guy that's actually a local product for us, Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, feels like that would be something that would actually kind of be par for the course, since the Saints have gotten so many guys that have either had relations to the Saints before or have that Louisiana connection. Do you think that Trey would be a good fit for the Saints if they were to take him in, say, somewhere in day two, whether it's the second or third round?
Oh, absolutely. On one of the mock drafts that I did, I had Trey Harris going to the Saints in the second round. I was just using McMillan and also Higgins as an example. But yeah, Trey Harris he's the real deal, man. He's super athletic. He has really good speed. He can get those yards after the catch. I definitely feel like he can be a really good addition to the New Orleans Saints. But regardless of who they select, Mesh, it has to be someone that can be that number one guy. No disrespect to Chris Olave, but I just feel like he's not that top shelf number one guy. I just think that he's just number one when it comes to the wide receiver room with the Saints. But I do feel like you need that guy that can possibly emerge as that number one guy, because it will make Chris Olave be more effective going with those one-on-one matchups, because he's going to win them every time.
How do you feel about Shaheed as staying potentially as that number two? Because the more and more I think about it, since Velus Jones was making a role in the special teams, and Dante Pettis, once Shaheed went down for the year with his injury, he ended up being more of a punt returner for the Saints as well. Since those guys are also options as return men as well as Shaheed, could you see Shaheed taking a backseat role for special teams and focusing more on being a dominant wide receiver in this offense?
I can see a possibility of that happening, but find somebody that can replace him as far as his dynamic ability. I mean, Rashid Shaheed is one of the best special teams players in the NFL. I mean, he was a first team All Pro on special teams in his rookie season. And he's just an incredible guy, when it comes to that role. I think that as long as he is as effective as he is, the Saints are going to look at him in that special teams capacity. But I mean, as far as him being a wide receiver, we definitely have seen him over the last couple of years, be that target. I mean, in crucial situations, he has been the guy that Derek Carr has looked to for those big time plays, rather seal the deal or maybe get into field goal range. So he definitely is somebody that you can utilize. But I just think as long as he is as special as he is on special teams, I don't think they're going to, find someone unless, that person just is special in their own right.
Talking with TJ Jones of the State of the Saints podcast. He joins us here on RP3 and Meche. All right, TJ, I've said for a while that they need to address left guard and finding a starting left guard. Will Clapp can maybe, handle stuff in a pinch, but that is an area of weakness. I also think cornerback number one is an area of weakness now that Adebo's left as well, and you traded last year. Do you believe that the Saints can address those two things with legitimate, front line starters at those two positions before the draft?
Yeah, I think that they can. I look at Will Clapp. He's a guy that served in more of a rotational role when he was with the Saints. Then he moved over to the Chargers, became a starter. I think that if the season was to begin today, he probably would be the left guard starter. But I don't think that you want to go into the season just with him, as your left guard. At least not bring someone in to try to compete for that role. I mean, but there are some very talented young guys that they can actually draft. I mean, we know that sometimes those diamonds in the rough can be in those later rounds. I mean, the Saints have had some, guys like Jari Evans, Jamar Bushride. Like, if you do your homework, you can find one of those guys. And, there's a few players that, I could just think about, right offhand, that maybe be there. Johnny Cornelius, he's a guy that's coming out of Oregon. A really talented guy, really good athleticism, probably will be there for you around the third round. And there's so many others, so I think that you're probably going to go into the season maybe looking at Will Clapp as the starter, but I think you can draft someone in those later rounds to maybe compete for that left guard position.
What about corner? Because if you're rolling out Kool-Aid McKinstry year 2, Alontae Taylor year 3, that's probably going to be an issue, especially knowing how Alontae struggles when he's on the outside. What do you do there?
Well, I think that's the reason why the Saints decided to bring back Isaac Yiadom. He did a really good job. When Marshawn Lattimore went down, he served the role. As a matter of fact, he ended up getting himself paid with the 49ers. Now, it didn't pan out the way that he anticipated, but, that's somebody that provides depth. But there are some guys in the draft as well. If you want to take that 9th pick, maybe go after Will Johnson if he's there, if he's available. Also, there's some guys maybe you can get in the later rounds, that you can address that position. Zay Alexander out of LSU. So, I think that they're going to possibly, draft someone maybe in those later rounds. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Will Johnson is the guy that ends up hearing his name called. This guy's an incredible cornerback. Outside of maybe Travis Hunter, he's the most dynamic one. This isn't a very deep class when it comes to cornerbacks. It's pretty top heavy. But if you're going to get your hands on a guy like Will Johnson, I think that, that would be a person that can definitely fill up that number 1 corner. I mean, I don't think the Saints have a number 1 corner right now. Kool-Aid McKinstry hasn't proven himself. Maybe Will Johnson can be that guy and make a name for himself.
TJ, always appreciate your time, brother. Thank you so much. Tell folks where they can go get the State of the Saints podcast, my friend.
Appreciate it, Ray and Meche. You can follow me on youtube.com/The State of the Saints podcast. You can also check out the State of the Saints podcast on all streaming platforms.
Brother, appreciate your time. Enjoy your weekend, my friend.